กว่า 12 ปีแล้วที่สถาบันการจัดการปัญญาภิวัตรหรือ PIM ได้ผลิตบัณฑิตที่มีคุณภาพเพื่อตอบสนองความต้องการขององค์กรธุรกิจในหลากหลายสาขาอาชีพโดยระบบการเรียนการสอนแบบ Work-based Education หรือการเรียนรู้ควบคู่การปฏิบัติงานจริงจากจุดเริ่มต้นจนถึงปัจจุบัน PIM มีความเปลี่ยนแปลงเกิดขึ้นมากมายด้วยจำนวนหลักสูตรการเรียนการสอนที่เพิ่มขึ้นจากเดิมเป็น 33 หลักสูตรใน 10 คณะ 2 วิทยาลัยได้แก่คณะบริหารธุรกิจคณะการจัดการโลจิสติกส์และการคมนาคมขนส่งคณะการจัดการธุรกิจอาหารคณะศิลปศาสตร์คณะศึกษาศาสตร์คณะอุตสาหกรรมเกษตรคณะนิเทศศาสตร์คณะนวัตกรรมการจัดการเกษตรคณะวิศวกรรมศาสตร์และเทคโนโลยีคณะวิทยาการจัดการวิทยาลัยนานาชาติและวิทยาลัยบัณฑิตศึกษาจีนที่มาพร้อมคณาจารย์มืออาชีพห้องเรียนและห้องปฏิบัติการที่ทันสมัยเพื่อสร้างสภาพแวดล้อมที่เหมาะสมในการเรียนทั้งยังก่อให้เกิดการเรียนรู้ที่มีประสิทธิภาพแก่นักศึกษาทุกคณะทุกชั้นปีนอกจากนี้ PIM ยังได้ทำบันทึกข้อตกลงความร่วมมือหรือ MOU กับองค์กรพันธมิตรทางธุรกิจและการศึกษาทำให้นักศึกษา PIM นอกจากจะได้ฝึกงานกับบริษัทชั้นนำในประเทศแล้วยังมีโอกาสได้ไปเก็บเกี่ยวประสบการณ์ที่ต่างประเทศทั้งการฝึกงานการได้รับทุนการศึกษารวมถึงการไปศึกษาดูงานที่เป็นประโยชน์ต่อการเรียนและการทำงานในอนาคตจากความรู้ที่ได้จากในห้องเรียนและประสบการณ์ฝึกงานตลอด 4 ปีทำให้นักศึกษา PIM สามารถคิดค้นนวัตกรรมที่นำไปใช้ได้จริงและได้รับการจดสิทธิบัตรอย่างเป็นทางการแล้ว PIM ยังคงมุ่งมั่นทำหน้าที่ผลิตบัณฑิตที่มีคุณภาพเพื่อเป็นส่วนหนึ่งในการสร้างสังคมและอนาคตที่ดีของประเทศต่อไป 12 ปี PIM เราจะเติบโตไปพร้อมกัน We Grow Together
Good morning, distinguished audience. I am Atapon Pondi. Today I am your moderator, and welcome to the Panyapiwat Institute of Management's the 6th International PIM Conference 2022, entitled Reconnecting the World of Coexistence Through Business and Education.
各位来宾、女士们、先生们，大家好，欢迎参加2022年政大管理学院第6届国际学术会议。本次会议的主题为通过教育商业重联世界。我是政大管理学院通识教育部的教师许艺农，担任今天的主持人。
Here at Panyapiwat Institute of Management, we are the Institute of Higher Education operating under CPO Public Company Limited. The key goal is to produce top quality graduates who strive for academic excellence and have ability to apply their knowledge in real practice. Therefore, the Institute provides instruction based on real-life experiences, which is called work-based education. Our students must be prepared to work alongside their studies every semester.
政大管理学院是 CPO 大众有限公司旗下的高等教育机构，着重于培养具有学术和工作实践能力方面的高素质毕业生，采用工作本位教学模式进行教学。每个学期，每位本科生都必须参与课堂学习以及工作实践。
The 6th International PIM Conference 2022 is an annual research forum held by Panyapiwat Institute of Management. It is a platform for research presentations from faculty lecturers and students, both in and outside the institute, to exchange ideas among the researchers. This year, we are honored to have the following 9 co-hosts.
本次国际学术会议是本校举办的第6届国际学术会议，目的是为了提供一个高质量的平台，让校外内的师生发表其研究成果，并促进研究人员之间交换意见。本次由9个合作单位共同举办，分别为
Chuo University, Japan, Waseda University, Japan. Chibaura Institute of Technology, Japan.
Nanjing Tech University, Pujiang Institute, China. Guangxi University of Finance and Economics, China. Beijing Jiaotong University, China. Yunnan University of Finance and Economics, China.
Black Hawk University, Vietnam. The Association of Council of IT Deans, CITT, Thailand. And all faculties cooperating with the Office of Research and Development, Panyapiwat Institute of Management.
接下来有请政大管理学院的校长、副教授松พมานะรังสรรค์博士为2022年政大管理学院第6届国际学术会议开幕致辞，有请。
Now may I please invite the President of the Panyapiwat Institute of Management, Associate Professor Dr. Sompop Mana Rangsan, to give the opening remark for the 6th International PIM Conference 2022. Please welcome the President.
เรียนท่านผู้บริหารท่านวิทยากรและแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านสถาบันการจัดการปัญญาภิวัตรเป็นสถาบันอุดมศึกษาที่มุ่งมั่นสร้างบัณฑิตที่มีคุณภาพทั้งในเชิงวิชาการและสามารถปฏิบัติงานได้จริงหรือ work based education สำหรับพันธกิจด้านการวิจัยและงานสร้างสรรค์สถาบันมีนโยบายส่งเสริมสนับสนุนให้คณาจารย์และนักศึกษาผลิตผลงานที่มีคุณภาพในศาสตร์สาขาวิชาต่างๆอันก่อให้เกิดองค์ความรู้และการสร้างสรรค์นวัตกรรมเพื่อพัฒนาองค์กรสังคมและประเทศชาติโดยมีการจัดสรรทุนอุดหนุนการผลิตผลงานวิจัยและผลงานวิชาการจัดโครงการพัฒนาศักยภาพในการทำวิจัยและผลิตงานสร้างสรรค์ตลอดจนสนับสนุนให้มีการเผยแพร่ผลงานวิจัยในรูปแบบต่างๆเป็นประจำทุกปีอย่างต่อเนื่องและในครั้งนี้สถาบันการจัดการปัญญาภิวัตรได้จัดการประชุมวิชาการปัญญาภิวัตรระดับนานาชาติครั้งที่ 6 ภายใต้ธีม Reconnecting the World of Coexistence through Business and Education ซึ่งเป็นกิจกรรมทางวิชาการที่จะช่วยส่งเสริมและสนับสนุนให้เกิดการแลกเปลี่ยนเรียนรู้ผลงานทางวิชาการในหลากหลายสาขาวิชาไม่ว่าจะเป็นการวิจัยทางด้านสังคมศาสตร์และมนุษยศาสตร์การวิจัยทางด้านวิทยาศาสตร์และเทคโนโลยีการวิจัยเพื่อการพัฒนาการเรียนรู้และผลงานวิทยานิพนธ์ของนักศึกษาในระดับปริญญาโทและปริญญาเอกการจัดประชุมวิชาการในครั้งนี้นับเป็นเวทีแลกเปลี่ยนการเรียนรู้ที่สำคัญสำหรับนักวิจัยนักวิชาการคณาจารย์และนักศึกษาทั้งภายในภายนอกสถาบันตลอดถึงระดับนานาชาติซึ่งก่อประโยชน์ในการสร้างความร่วมมือและสร้างเครือข่ายทางวิชาการในมิติต่างๆที่จะนำไปสู่การนำผลงานวิจัยไปใช้ประโยชน์ได้อย่างยั่งยืนในนามของสถาบันการจัดการปัญญาภิวัตรขอขอบพระคุณเจ้าภาพร่วมจากหลากหลายสถาบันทั้งในประเทศและต่างประเทศและขอขอบพระคุณวิทยากรที่ได้มาแชร์ประสบการณ์และเสนอแนวความคิดใหม่ๆเพื่อเป็นการสร้างองค์ความรู้ให้แก่ผู้เข้าร่วมประชุมวิทยาการในครั้งนี้สถาบันการจัดการปัญญาภิวัตรขอต้อนรับผู้นำเสนอผลงานทางวิชาการทุกท่านที่ร่วมเจตนารมณ์ในการสนับสนุนส่งเสริมผลิตและเผยแพร่ผลงานวิชาการที่มีคุณภาพยังประโยชน์ต่อสังคมและประเทศชาติขอให้ทุกท่านประสบความสำเร็จและมีความเจริญรุ่งเรืองสืบไป
Thank you very much. Currently, we are still following the safety guidelines associated with the newly emerging COVID-19 situation. We must always maintain social distancing. Therefore, this activity is held online. However, it is still full of academic conference activity as usual. Today, we are going to listen to a panel discussion delivered by our experts from both Thailand and overseas, entitled Reconnecting the World of Coexistence Through Business and Education.
非常感谢校长的支持。当前我们仍然处在新冠肺炎疫情的情形之中，所以我们还需各位要保持一定的社会距离。虽然本次会议是在线上举行，但是我们本次会议完整度还是跟以前一样。今天我们将听取来自泰国和其他国家的专家嘉宾发表的主题为“通过教育商业重联世界”的演讲。
Our first guest speaker, Mr. Suwarnachai Loha Watanakul. He is the founder and the president of Tiger Academy. The second one is Ms. Jaripon Charukon Sakul. She is the chairman and group CEO for WHA Corporation Public Company Limited. And the next one, Dr. Neil Chaubin, University of Malaya. The next one, Associate Professor, Dr. Ming Jiang Li, Nanyang Technological University, Provost Chair in International Relations Coordinator of PhD program, and the moderator by Professor Dr. Tang Jimin. He is the director of China ASEAN Studies Center of Panyapiwat Institute of Management. Please welcome Professor Dr. Tang Jimin.
Actually, the MC is already recorded their introduction, so we can just start our keynote speech. First, let's ask Dr. Suwarnachai to give your presentation. You have about 8 minutes.
Let me share my share screen.
Yes.
Today, I'd like to start the presentation of strategic positioning in the midst of this dynamic changing world. We are living in the complex world in terms of economy, society, environment, health, value, especially during COVID-19. It has changed our way of life. Let's see the current situation. Recession increases the cost of living and brings new normal pace of lifestyle. Although technology has made life easier and raised efficiency in work and living, it is at the expense of the rising cost. About the environment, the crisis brought by consumerism and changing lifestyle lead to overuse of natural resources, with waste and pollution causing long-term environmental impacts. Demographic change, with the greater numbers of older people and the arrival of an aging society, increases the dependency ratio, affecting the economic competitiveness and the welfare system. Social value. Difference in social values are caused by generation gaps, economic conditions, different way of life, and technology. Technology change consumer lifestyle and behavior while creating economic and social inequality in access to knowledge. For using technology, just like we are standing in front of the cliff, which we don't know exactly how deep it is down there. If we fell down, in order to go to the next chapter, the only way to become what we want to be is to make a big jump with a leap of faith. Just mention the current situation. These changes have altered our way of life, and in our future will change to respond to these trends. Digitalization has taken place in a short period with the internet as major catalyst. The digital age makes every sector adapt to digitalization. This development has changed our lifestyle. Online platforms cover everything, including transportation, communication, entertainment, etc. The world's most valuable businesses are now in digital technology and online platforms. They also penetrate people's lives via smart variables and help us connect to the anything faster and easier. Urbanization has driven economic growth while also bringing social and environment problems and affecting people's way of life. This trend is motivated by the belief that urban areas have more to offer in terms of growth, job opportunities, and development than the rural areas. And of course, the transportation problems is one of the signals of the urbanization. A lot of people are often moving around in between their workplace and their homes. This leads to the traffic jam and congestion. In ASEAN, we are all have our own local authenticity. And the beauty of our local wisdom provides the business opportunity, since now consumers are looking for the real and original one. The higher value can be added into it. The trend of this local authenticity is still more to be developed, and how to show the world is our duty. Not only from our country Thailand, China, Japan, everywhere in the world, that we all have the beauty of our own local authenticity to share to the world. As we are aware of the environment issue, the next trend is about green and natural. In order to keep it for the next generation, we all need to think about the sustainability of the resources. Sustainability is the determining factor in survival for all living things. The topic of sustainability in Thailand involves many social and environmental issues that require attention from all parties. This aspect of sustainability have a direct impact on the mental and physical well-being of people in Thailand. They also determine the delicate balance of the ecosystem, enabling continuous growth. Signals of change are from our daily life, weather anxiety, poor air quality, renewable and alternative energy. Nothing much to say about this thing. Currently, we all know that we need to give our helping hand. We all care more about other people, especially for those that need some help. Currently, we can also see these trends that through government pipeline, robotic tech is in our country pipeline to modernize Thailand in several industries. Automation and robotics are transforming existing jobs and adding quality to some of the future. Many careers will disappear, but on the good side, AI will support experts. It will give efficient help and more system and make system of operation more efficient, more precise, more and faster. When automation, robotic, and human are working together, there will be more efficient team and better work outcome. New business ecosystem will be revolutionized accordingly. There will be less permanent job or lifetime employment. How new temporarily independent freelance will turn the existing business model around. This is quite challenging. As we may experience Grab taxi co-working space is the fruit from sharing economy. This creates viable and challenging new business model. How SME can adopt and scale through this sharing platform where you own no asset is still the challenging question. Well, we have seen the new world is changing in terms of economic, technology, social, and cultural impact on mankind. Interesting question is how we are going to be strategically position ourselves in the midst of this dynamic and changing environment. Wish you all the best.
Mrs. Swachai. You mentioned lots of change in our world, economically, technologically. But the question is, how can we respond to this change? I think I'll ask you later in your discussion
Okay.
to let you give us some advice. Today, we are very happy to have Mr. Rapon, who is the chairman and group chief CEO of WHA Corporation. Okay, please start. The floor is for you.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you, for have us in the discussion today. It's a panel discussion, right? So the first thing I think as we talk about the world in the year 2022, that will affect the business or about the education, how that collate together, right? So we all talk about the VUCA world. If you think about VUCA, it's about vulnerability, uncertainty, or complexity, or ability. But from the leadership and I think for myself, I just sharing another bit to opposite side. From ability to agility, and from complexity to like clarify, and uncertainty to like about understand, and also from variety to the visions. If you think about this thing, or you can be your top management think of it's not like about or try something like this. For the leadership to be think about this thing, I think this is all change of the mindset of your corporate or even though for your staff. And right now, talk about the macro environment, the changes of the technology or the happens of the COVID-19, even though the U.S.-China trade war or trade capitals or even technology, and also about the sustainability or the zero. All the things we think about, this is a threat or opportunities. For my point of view, I saw a lot of opportunities in all the changes of the world. And so we talk about we all talk about the digital disruption and challenge to the business. So what the disruptive technologies are we go with like exponentials, and also the impact our world are faster and more powerful than ever before. So for our business, how we think about is all this technology change of the business doing, and for the current business maybe it could be outdated. And even though the business model need to transform or to upgrade to stay on the curve, and competitive landscape be changed to the good digital technologies in the game. Even though for the customer centric, they also not only satisfied like the previous before, they need better experience. So for the business group, we all talk about the digital transformation. It's like the top business priority. Since for the digital transformation, it's not like about only the technology. It's also put in about the business strategy. And this is also need to like about the top down from the top management. And for business group, we've done a lot about digital transformations. And for the learning, I think about for the education part, need to prepare for about like have your respond to the world changes like this. Because previously we talk about innovation. Innovation is still like innovation from the existing that you have. But right now we talk about disruption technology. That's mean disrupt on the existing you have, and this you like change the world. So I think that's for the learning. It should be trained. It's like a lifelong learning. It's not only just graduate from the university. It's something like that. It should be learned by yourself. We have online learning or anything. And even though for your staff reskill, you need to reskill and upskill. And I think that's maybe not only, it's not only reskill and upskill. Maybe we need to change skill. And previously we always talk about the professional, right? But right now I think this is not the professional mindset. We talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. It seems like very different, with difference between professional and entrepreneur, right? Since for the entrepreneur, it seems like it has more response than for the only the professional about the thinking and only to start anything, only the onto your mindset is very important things. And also, I think that's the word to share from the specialist to the generalist. I think this a generalist is over specialist because it seems like now you do business, you not only just only know only one thing for the specialist, you need to know across the world. Otherwise, I think that we can survive. And next, I think that's for about the digital workforce is quite important. So we talk about the technology, right? And this sort of thing. So from now, we expect that for we have the loss of the digital workforce. It is more than 133 million by the year 2022. We need about this workforce. And the 10 jobs loss is things like the data analyst, scientist, and AI machine learning, big data specialist, or digital marketing, something, right? All the thing is all collaborate with about the digital things. Okay, the for yes, from like now for the new normal to a new future. Also, we know about the coronavirus effect about all the world. We talk about the crisis from corona, but I think that we have a lot of things that crisis or opportunities. I saw a lot of opportunities in these things. Since right now for the BC group, we do about business is like a logistic, industrial estate, utilities power, and digital platforms. And we think that's for this crisis, this time, we think that it's all change about the supply chains of the world. And I think for our group, we got a benefit from these changes. You can see the COVID-19, the global trade and trade tensions or digital technologies. And for the new supply chain, we went from the supply chain consolidation, right? And from globalization to regionalization and diversification, not only invest in like about the big country, like about the China before, and the changes of operation to automations and servicification and also connected to the target market. So that's why we saw a lot of FDI or about the foreign direct investment relocation from China to Southeast Asia, especially in Thailand and Vietnam. And what we share group, we both do the business in both countries. So we got a lot of FDI from this situation. I think it's for the relocation this time, it's quite a big impact from both countries or from the Southeast Asia. We can enhance our business here. So I think that's for the COVID-19, we had a good effect to us. And also for the logistic part, since for the business, we also do a lot about the logistics here, and also you can see that for about the COVID-19, the increasing for the e-commerce business is growing fast. I mean, the 3 or 4 times from last year, and also but we need to share some of the operations from the traditional to the modern warehouse. Since for the business, we also like about we also share some operation. We don't think about only the traditional or normal operation right now. We talk about automation in the warehouse operations, and so we talk about we talk about the EV transportation for the end-to-end process, all the supply chain. Because of the world, we think about the net zero. So all the things that happen, I think as we got for the other benefit. And for I think it's for the key takeaway. All we know is about we talk a lot about the technology. We talk 5G. We talk about the quantum computing. We talk about the automations and for the blockchains, the metaverse, right? The newest is the metaverse. And for the cloud edge computing, all the things that we talk is all the technology that we train on the way of doing business, right? So for education, I think that we need to prepare people about these things. And for Thailand, we talk about how we can do the digital Thailand's ecosystem, how we can collaborate among the key parties, inclusion in the farming digital backdrop in about the Thailand to stay on the curve. So we also discuss with the government, how the government to collaborate, like government, university, corporate, investor, and citizens. Or we need changes, even though for the government, we need to supply about invest about the technology infrastructure, and also establish about the support about the environment, about the community, something like this. Even though for the university, we need to learn about the knowledge sharing, access to research facility, not only like about the research that cannot do business. So they need to collaborate from the university and the corporate, collaborate together. How can you do R&D and then can do the commercial? And it's in the trend of the world. Even though the investor, we need to provide funding to about the R&D part and also right about the citizen need to prepare themselves, how they protect themselves from about the cyber threat, something like this. And also you can see the new economic engine. Last year we have for Thailand we have Thai unicorn startup in the year 2021. It's a 3 startup, right? And one is a fast experience in about the logistics and the end-to-end e-commerce operation. And you can see that's for the lines of the e-commerce, right? So our unicorn, one of our unicorn is like about the logistic part or e-commerce operation. And also another one is about the Essence Money is a e-wallet service provider. This is like about the theme of so we have about to talk about the DeFi or anything that the world changes on about the money system. And also Bitcup, right? Bitcup is all about digital asset. We all talk about digital in the world, right? So all these changes are about the engine here. And also in Thailand, we also have the EEC. For the EEC, we focus on about the 12 target industry. Can think about the automotive, right? Next generation, we talk about next generation automotive, right? Intelligence, electronics, medical hub, right? And this morning, our BOI just announced the benefits of the medical things and electronics. Since we think that it's a theme solve about the lesson in the next few years. And also, even though agriculture, we don't do also the previous one, we do advance about the technology used in agriculture and also about biotechnology and food for the future, automation and robotics, innovation and logistics. And even though for the biofuel and biochemical, and the most important part is like the digital things and high value of medical tourism, defensive, and also education for the human resource development. In EC, we also have about the EECD, it's about digital park. ECR about the innovation platform, even though for about the ECMD, it's also about the medical hub. So you can see the thing there's a lot of opportunities in Thailand that we support for the country. We start as the sandbox in the EEC. And if we think that is we can move up or expand to another parts of the country. So I think that's all the world changes. I think that we can do things better than we do before.
Okay. Thank you very much for a very comprehensive presentation about the changing world and what's our response. Now let's move to Dr. New Chao Bin, who is from the University of Malaya. He is the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, and also Director of Institute of China Studies. So the floor is for you.
Thank you very much, Professor Tang, and very good morning to Professor Tang, fellow panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Panyapiwak Institute of Management for inviting me to participate in this very prestigious PIM International Conference with the theme Reconnecting the World of Coexistence Through Business and Education. I would like to talk about the production of China knowledge, something that the previous speaker, Dr. Li Mingjia, also touched upon related to China, but more focused on how Southeast Asian countries, academia, business sector could play a role in terms of generating the kind of relevant and necessary knowledge from Southeast Asia about China. And for that matter, I also would like to just touch upon a bit about how China should also try to understand Southeast Asia better as well. I have a PowerPoint to slide, and let me get it started. So this is my topic. What kind of China knowledge is relevant to Southeast Asia, with a question mark, because it's an open-ended question. I think that I want to explore this one. There's no definite answer yet. I would like to explore this together with the fellow panelists, also with the audience. A brief background. China and Southeast Asia, definitely they are both important neighbors and partners to each other for a very, very long time. Historically, of course, we have the stories and legends from the legendary Zheng He's visit to many parts of Southeast Asia, long history of peaceful relationship or mostly peaceful relationship with most of the neighbors between China and Southeast Asia, the dynastic China and various Southeast Asian kingdoms and other polities as well. And then, of course, in the modern period, both China and Southeast Asia experienced imperialism, colonialism, and wars, and later decolonization, at least in Southeast Asia, decolonization and Cold War, and so on and so forth. There were many factors that contributed the lack of interaction between China and Southeast Asia during that period, at least the maritime area of Southeast Asia, because of the Cold War and other issues. There were also times that both sides saw each other as, generally speaking, as adversaries, sometimes friends, sometimes align each other's with strategic interests, but sometimes not. With the end of the Cold War, when both China and Southeast Asia were more, both regions were looking forward towards cooperation, economic collaboration, a better future in a way that China and Southeast Asia now, kind of more united under this grouping of ASEAN, that both sides can begin some kind of a very productive relationship in the years to come. 2021, last year, China and Southeast Asia, China or ASEAN, both celebrated the 30th anniversary of the establishment of a dialogue relations back to 1991. That was actually the first year when China and ASEAN formally got in touch with each other through an institutional platform, and that dialogue relationship later was upgraded into a partnership. And since then, there were many functional ties between China and ASEAN, including a free trade area, a strategic partnership. Just now, Dr. Li Mingjiang talked about the non-traditional security. I think in 2004, 2005, there was an MOU about China-ASEAN cooperation on a non-traditional security. And last year also, there was an upgrade from a strategic partnership to a comprehensive strategic partnership. And we also have seen this year, the implementation of the Regional Economic Comprehensive Partnership. It was started by ASEAN, but very much anchored upon a close cooperation between China and ASEAN and together with other economies, RCEP. And by 2020, ASEAN and China both count each other as the largest trade partners. So there are many areas of productive collaboration between China and ASEAN. I think the future of ASEAN as a prosperous region cannot be separable from having China as a robust partner, and same with China as having ASEAN as a robust partner. So in terms of trade and economics, in terms of digital economy, the first speaker mentioned about the importance of digital economy and green transition. Both sides offer a lot of opportunities to work together on these issues. The pandemic underlies that cooperation on public health would be vitally important. Connectivity projects, BRI projects, I think all Southeast Asian countries remain very committed to have a very productive relationship with China on bringing on many BRI projects and science and technology as well. And of course, there are many contentious issues that have emerged, especially since 2010s. The South China Sea disputes continue to be a very important concern for many of the maritime Southeast Asian countries. There are disputes or at least concerns about the use of water resources along the Mekong rivers, the strategic tensions in the region between China and the US, and China and many developed countries as well. And there are some concerns that China could also pose a challenge to the coherence and unity of ASEAN. And these are all major issues. And all these areas of productive collaborations and contentious issues exactly underline the importance for greater need for mutual understanding, for how China should understand Southeast Asia better, and for how Southeast Asia should also understand China better and more accurately in order to navigate these complex relationships between the two sides. I want to speak more about the production of China knowledge, since I am a university employee. And we are aware that universities are modern centers of knowledge production. I say this with the great awareness that universities are not the only centers of production, knowledge production in any society. It should not be. There are even enterprises, business sectors, NGOs, they are all important centers for knowledge production. But ultimately, of course, universities count as one of the most important, and in some societies remain to be the most important centers of knowledge production. And we copy universities, or at least learn to build our university mostly from learning from universities in the West, in the developed world, United States, Europe, Australia, Japan, and some other developed countries. They continue to be the most important factors influencing or have the kind of paradigm they build up, the kind of institutions where universities serve as the generators of very important knowledge. And in Western universities, in terms of how they understand China, or for that matter, the so-called non-Western societies, there are these traditions of sinology, or for other non-Western societies would be like Egyptology, Indology, the kind of traditional humanistic focus fields, versus a new kind of ways of looking into these societies through applications of social science knowledge, theories relevant to policy fields, and generally it's called area studies, or in the field of China would be China studies. A crucial general differentiating factor between the traditional and the new way of looking into this kind of so-called non-Western societies from the Western perspective will be the difference between curiosity and necessity. The traditional sinology will be defined more by curiosity of individual scholars. They were genuinely curious about society they want to know about, learn about, and they admire mostly. But area studies was underlined by the necessity, by governments needing to formulate more relevant policies to anticipate what comes in the future, to understand what have happened in the past, and in the service of course, governments, knowledge, national interests, and so on and so forth. So I would say curiosity and necessity are the two major different kind of ways to understand how knowledge, or what are the leitmotifs to guide the production of knowledge when it comes to understanding non-Western societies. The geopolitics of university knowledge production during the Cold War of these area studies have been scrutinized by scholars. The critical scholars who look at area studies with the application of social science theories that have been developed in the West, or based on Western experience, and then applied in the so-called non-Western societies, try to test these theories, try to predict, based on these theories, try to predict them, or even try to guide them, right? How non-Western societies should all converge toward a Western liberal democratic capitalist model. So in a way, they proclaim universality, or for the more critical scholars would be a hegemony coming from the West. That is contrasted with the kind of locality or even emancipation of our knowledge produced in the non-Western countries, or so-called in the South. With this kind of different knowledge productions, or this kind of ways of knowledge production be adequate in terms of how Southeast Asians know about China, or understand, generate knowledge about China, or for that matter, vice versa, how would China start to understand the rest of the world? And we take note that since China become more and more integrated with the world, area studies within China has enjoyed basically a flourishing period. Until today, it's still ongoing. There are many area studies, country studies centers set up within China, many Southeast Asian study centers set up within Chinese universities and think tanks. And that underlies exactly that necessity often promotes area studies, and is now the turn for China to have this greater understanding for Southeast Asia. But for Southeast Asia, the closer interaction with China also makes us very much is a necessity for building up the indigenous intellectual capacity to generate new, accurate, and relevant knowledge about China. I would like to speak a little bit about what I see as the current state of academic China studies in Southeast Asia. Basically, academic China studies is defined as basically the kind of studies that are produced within intellectual institutions, mainly universities, or also sometimes think tanks and research institutions as well. I would say, looking at the 10 ASEAN countries, roughly, I would say there were 4 categories. 2 of them would be of their own. First is Singapore, where Dr. Li Mingjiang comes from. Singapore, I think, is the most developed in the sense that having many scholars working on China, having produced a lot of works, having had the capacity to basically maintain dialogue both with the Western world. There's a lot of ongoing interaction with the Western world when it comes to matters about China, and with China as well. There are a lot of interactions also between Singapore and China. Many scholars, scholarly exchange, many scholars from China come to Singapore, and less so from Singapore to China, but still a very vibrant scholarly exchanges. Uh, and then the second would be Vietnam. Vietnam also maintain one of the strongest China watching or China studies community, but mostly less known outside of Vietnam because they didn't produce in languages other than Vietnamese, and so less accessible in a way compared to the kind of knowledge production that comes from Singapore. And then followed by, I would say, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia are more or less at the same page, where the focus on China is beginning and attracting more and more people into the field. The focus tend to be more bilateral studies because, as I say, this is belied by necessity. A lot of bilateral studies in terms of economy, security, and less so about the inner dynamics of the country itself. And finally, is Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Brunei, which are basically still very much underdeveloped in terms of area studies in these countries' university. In terms of the factors, ethnicity, many of the scholars working in these fields are ethnic Chinese because they are the first one who are able to understand the language and culture and able to build some bridge. But of course, it cannot be solely based on the ethnic Chinese. Eventually, of course, it will be something that is across the different ethnic groups within each of these countries. And within the region is a very diverse region. We have Buddhist civilization, Islamic, Christian, Confucian, and so on and so forth. I think that inform a very pluralistic worldview towards China compared to from Europe or America, where they enjoy a more cohesive civilizational perspective towards China. Language is a major issue because for China scholar, you have to be able to understand the Chinese language, English in the sense of communicating with the rest of the world, and the local language in terms of communicating with the audience within your own country. And then I will speak about these different levels of understanding China with the 3 different fields that have developed within Southeast Asian universities in the next slide. And outside of the academic China studies is the practical China knowledge in Southeast Asia. There are substantial deposits of this practical knowledge. I think Southeast Asian business communities, or for that matter, other cultural, familial, and religious connections with China, they are perhaps as strong as know how other countries interact with China. This familiarity is always there, is very strong. At the peoples to peoples level, I think Southeast Asians have to share with China basically the same kind of diets, worldview, kinship, and many other factors as well. I think therefore these substantial deposits of practical knowledge in Southeast Asia, business communities are very, very strong, very grounded, although they are less theoretical, less social science in a way, but I think they are very necessary and very important. And that I would say is a particular factor for Southeast Asia is familiarity. Outside of necessity, beyond curiosity is familiarity. Actually, we are more or less quite familiar with China, but they are not yet abstracted into a kind of academic knowledge. And I think that is a great potential to integrate academic discourses with practical knowledge in Southeast Asia's higher education institutions. The 3 levels of studying China, as I say just now, in terms of traditional civilization, will be traditional sinology, focused on humanities. These are basically concentrated in many Chinese language and culture study centers within Southeast Asia. The state level would be focusing on the People's Republic of China, basically more on the social science policy related research. And each of the Southeast Asian countries have dynamic overseas Chinese communities, and in a way, this is to study the the Chinese people outside of China. Southeast Asian universities have all three in a way, but the different strengths. And in terms of the state perspective, China studies there is more underdeveloped compared to the other two fields, and that is something that the great potential of developing into a stronger field as well. These are some of the works about exploration and mapping of China studies within Southeast Asia that I have done, that some of my scholarly colleagues have done in terms of trying to understand. But I think this is still emerging. There are a lot of future, a lot of possibilities. So I look forward to more and more studies on this kind, understanding of this kind, together with my colleagues in Southeast Asia as well. So this is my final point. I think to basically re-emphasize the theme of this conference, reconnecting the world of coexistence through business and education. I think business and education definitely help about the connectivity and coexistence. I want to make some observations. Higher education exchanges between China and Southeast Asia. These are new sites of area studies, knowledge production and generation, with growing numbers of Southeast Asians going to China to undertake studies within Chinese universities and from China to Southeast Asia as well. These are, I think, a very strong trends because Southeast Asian intellectual elites used to rely heavily on the knowledge produced in the developed world. As I said, this is the paradigm in order to understand China. And same thing for how Chinese intellectual elite try to understand Southeast Asia, perhaps through the West, through the developed world. Now there are new sites for both sides to directly engage each other further. And then I think it will open up a lot more different implications, possibilities, and perspectives. And business pioneers and practitioners, they also continue to serve as important sources of knowledge, understanding, and empathy. And I would foresee and I will hope that the China knowledge production in Southeast Asia, they will hold a great promise, and then will be more pluralistic and less monotonous in a way that we see how the modern area studies of China somehow have developed in the developed world, in the Western world, especially in the English-dominated world, where we constantly see almost a monotonous way of just looking at China. But I think Southeast Asia could provide a more pluralistic perspective, and that will help in terms of reinforcing connectivity and coexistence between China and Southeast Asia. Thank you very much. I look forward to the discussions later.
A very interesting introduction about China knowledge in Southeast Asia. He talked about the different groups, countries, Southeast Asia, and the three levels of China study. And I like very much, he talked about the center of knowledge creation of university. Right? We are university, and we worry in the future, will there any university at all? But you mentioned that actually university is a knowledge center to create knowledge. This role maybe will go on for a long time. Okay, now let's move to Associate Professor Dr. Li Mingjiang. He is the Provost Chair in International Relations and the coordinator for PhD program of a very famous institute in Singapore called ISIS. Okay, the floor is for you, Mingjiang.
Thank you very much, Professor Tang. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me to this very interesting seminar. We know in East Asia, including Southeast Asia, there are many security problems that affect the relations between nation states. Primarily, I think everybody knows that the South China Sea dispute has been there for a long time, and it won't go away in the long future. The South China Sea is a typical security issue, which we call traditional security. But today I'm going to give a presentation on a slightly different topic. I'm going to address the non-traditional security interactions between China and Southeast Asia. I will henceforth use NTS to refer to non-traditional security. To start, I think all of us understand that security essentially means the survival of the referent object from an existential threat. In the traditional security paradigm, the state is usually regarded as the main and even the only referent object of security. And security primarily means national defense. This traditional approach lost its explanatory power for emerging security challenges in the 1980s and 1990s, when issues such as climate change, infectious diseases, and migration began to pose more serious threats. The outbreak of COVID-19 in 2020 serves as a timely reminder to the international community that a non-military problem can pose an existential threat to both nation states and human security. The pandemic, as we all know, has killed millions of people in the world, and it has caused significant disruptions to social economic activities throughout the world. The immense scale and transnational nature of the outbreak demonstrate that solutions to NTS challenges can be beyond the capacity of any individual state, and that cooperation is absolutely necessary. So conceptually, NTS is a generic term for non-military challenges such as infectious diseases, natural disasters, climate change, water scarcity, energy shortage, and transnational crimes. NTS has gained greater attention from China and Southeast Asia. In the early 2000s, after the Asian financial crisis in 1997 and the outbreak of SARS epidemic in 2003, the economic and social political ramifications of both events led to the recognition in the region that non-military problems could threaten the security of the state and well-being of its people. The two crises created opportunities for China to court the friendship of Southeast Asia through cooperation. China's decision not to depreciate its currency in 1997 and 1998 was perceived positively in Southeast Asia. During the initial phase of the SARS outbreak, likewise, the Chinese government was heavily criticized for its handling of the pandemic at the first place. And then very soon, China and Southeastern countries moved very quickly to cooperate. And as a result, I would say no, the SARS epidemic was quickly contained. By fighting the two crises together, China and ASEAN improved their mutual trust and laid the foundation for cooperation in NTS in subsequent years. However, many of us also understand the regional security environment in Southeast Asia has changed quite a lot in the 2010s. Apart from the evolving features of NTS challenges, the new geopolitical dynamics have several implications for China-ASEAN cooperation in NTS. Now, let me just share a few thoughts on NTS cooperation between China and ASEAN countries in the current era. First, with growing power resources, the incumbent Chinese leadership has demonstrated stronger interest in elevating China's regional and international standing, improving its image, and building soft power. In this context, NTS has become a conventional channel for China to achieve these purposes through more proactive diplomacy. Amid growing concerns over its hardening regional strategy in the South China Sea, for instance, China has taken a soft turn in its engagement with Southeast Asia on some NTS issues. Instead of merely scaling up financial and technical support for ASEAN and its member states, China has begun to invest more on institutional building in relation to NTS governance, with the Nanchang Mekong Cooperation as a recent example of this move. The growing role of Chinese non-state actors such as enterprises, think tanks, and non-governmental organizations in the two-way engagements contributes to softening of China's image amid increasing controversies over its assertiveness in the traditional security arena, particularly in the South China Sea. Second, while welcoming the benefits and opportunities created by China's greater commitment, Southeast Asian countries are also increasingly aware of the new trend in regional security, and many regional countries are more concerned about the expansion of China's influence in the region. The conflicts and tensions in the South China Sea have certainly contributed to such mindset in regional countries towards China. And third, one should also consider the dynamics beyond the China-Southeast Asia context. The United States, for instance, has a long history of funding NTS-related projects in ASEAN countries. Japan has been a strong supporter of ASEAN for issues such as pandemic, response, disaster relief, and disaster management. The activities of these countries are testing China's diplomacy. The question for China, perhaps for ASEAN countries, is how can Chinese initiatives complement, if not compete with, ASEAN's existing partnerships with other major powers? Finally, a common observation is that the Chinese initiatives have achieved mixed results in Southeast Asia. NTS cooperation has certainly helped stabilize and improve bilateral ties between China and Southeast Asia. But there's been slow progress, and there have been even setbacks in NTS cooperation between China and regional states. And there are many reasons why. For instance, some of you probably remember or you understand from your readings or conversations, there's an issue of historical distrust. There are tensions rising from traditional security issues. There's competition between China and other external powers. And also China's own limitations in experience, capacity, and institutional coordination also serve as barriers to further NTS cooperation between China and Southeast Asia. Thank you very much. Back to you, Professor Tang.
Professor Lee, it's very interesting. You are the authority of this security issue, or you call it non-traditional security, NTS. At first, I thought NTS is a great challenge for us, right? Because it's expanded to many areas besides military areas. But now I realize from your speech, actually it's also offer a very good opportunity for us. It's also for China-ASEAN relations, because the countries should unite together in this time to solve the problem of NTS together. So thank you for your introduction for this topic. Now let's enter the discussion period. First, I will ask Mr. Swachai. In your presentation, you mentioned so many changes, changing technology, changing economy, and so on. But the question is, how should we respond to the change? What is your advice for us? I understand you are, as the Director General of SME Office, you have provided advice a lot to entrepreneurs in Thailand, and yourself is also a successful entrepreneur. So from this experience, what kind of advice you can give us in this changing world? Probably, like you said, have a good mindset for a better strategic position.
Thank you very much for your question. For me, in order to be able to cope with the changes, I believe mindset is the most important factor. When I was young, I was so afraid if I didn't know something. But now, I am so happy if I didn't know anything. To, to know that I don't know is so important, and it's the important starting point to relearn and unlearn myself. And I realized that imperfection need in, and I realized that imperfection leads to perfection. As businessmen, when we produce something, we tend to do what we are good at. It's not all wrong, but the better way is to do what our customers need and looking for. To win customer heart is everything. Quality is so much more important than quantity. In many cases, when problems arise, it is not because we don't know the solutions. It's not because we couldn't think, but we just didn't think fast enough. So let's think faster and act faster. And also the business model is also very important. How to create the branding business is very crucial for SME. Innovation is another area to focus on, since everyone is looking for the new and interesting things, more convenient, more advanced. To be successful in current situation, how to manage the digital scale is the winning factor for our firm. Open network cooperation is also very important. As myself, I am the president of Global Entrepreneurship Network Thailand as well. I truly believe in cooperation and collaboration will lead to more success. The balance of creativity and operation is key to business development, including product development, function development, and O2O, online to offline, is also a major strategy in current business environment. Flexible store may be necessary, and most of all, financial planning is one of the critical success factors. This is my answer to your question. Thank you.
In this changing world, it's very important for us to have a good mindset. And according to you, there are three important issues. The first one is don't afraid of imperfection, right? Actually, we don't worry too much if you are not perfect, if you do not know everything. Just move on. That's the first point. Second point is don't forget, we must have a business model to provide something is needed, right? Many young people want to do the business. They want to have do something innovation or something, but they forget the thing they provide should be needed in the market, right? That's very important. And third point is to act fast, right? Don't wait. Don't worry about imperfection. Provide something is needed in the market and act fast. I think that's a very good advice for us, for people who want to have their new business. Okay, thank you very much. Actually, the most important challenge we have, one is the COVID-19, right? COVID-19 pandemic looks like it will last for quite a long time. Another thing is the China-American rivalry in ASEAN. From the WHA perspective, any negative impact? Do you see any negative impact from these two things for your company, for your business?
I think for the China and US trade for the PHA group, we got about the positive things, as we just were talking, right? Since for for the industrial estate part, we have a lot of the foreign direct investor relocate from China, especially the part of the Chinese company or even the European, US, and also the Japanese, also a Taiwanese relocate from China to our country. So we got a lot of investors here. And for the logistic analyzing for the e-commerce that you can see is about they use a lot of logistic part like that for our business. So we got a lot about these two parts.
So you are very positive. You see the opportunity from this challenges.
Right. I think that's a crisis. It has a lot of opportunities up to your mindset. You think the crisis, the whole crisis. You think the opportunities are opportunities and opportunities.
That's very good mindset. So to summarize, you see, for the trade war or U.S.-China rivalry, you see there are more FDI. FDI comes to Thailand. Foreign investors. That's good for your industrial park.
Sure.
For the COVID-19, you see, you saw that because COVID-19, we use more e-commerce. So this provides more opportunity for your logistics service. Actually, it also may force you to have upgrade technology using better technology to serve e-commerce. So that's a very good positive thinking we can learn from your experience. That's very good. Do you have any advice? Because we have many students here. They are learning. Some are learning bachelor. Some are learning MBA. Some are learning PhD. What is your advice for them to live in this world?
Right, I think for that I showed you for lifelong learning, we need to about your change your mindset first. Right, you're not only about the professional, right? You need to be like the entrepreneurial mindset. And even though for you need to know all the across the world. It seems like the journalist more than specialist. Since supported you know all specialists, then that means that you only dig down only one thing. But you need to know all the across the things. I think that's two important things: entrepreneurship mindset and journalist mindset. I think that's support of life and also lifelong learning.
Okay. So actually you have three advices. One is they should be an entrepreneur, right? They should have entrepreneur thinking to create opportunities, to find opportunities. Second, they should be a generalist because unfortunately in the current education system, many of them study as a specialist, right? You specialize in a very small area. But actually as an entrepreneur, you should be you have a general mindset. You have more knowledge. So actually, I think it's good advice. When you're learning now, I think internet provides lots of opportunities. Instead of learning very special things, you can be alert to different areas to be generalist. And the last one, as I said, is you should have a lifelong learning mindset, right? Lifelong learning. But, keep learning, like you. You graduate from not from real estate, right? Your degree is not from real estate. I see from.
I graduated from the public health accounting.
Public health, remember? So
public health accounting. I don't think I do about industrial estate, something like this, a logistic.
So it's very different. Your career is very different from what you learned in your first degree. So
for the bachelor degree, it seems like they're fundamental for us to learn anything.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So it's very nice to talk to you. Now let's move to Zhao Bing. You are actually expert of China studies, as we've seen from your books and papers, and in the Center of Chinese Studies in University of Malaya. You talk about the relevant and the necessary knowledge of China. So from your analysis, what is the pain point or deficiency so far in Southeast Asia in terms of China knowledge? What is lacking or what is need to be done? Can you elaborate a little bit on this point?
Thank you, Professor Tang. Even though I have worked on this one and then written some papers, as you mentioned, I think it's still a great field that I try to learn the kind of knowledge production in Southeast Asia. But I just want to mention, what it is, perhaps what opportunities it offers, rather than too early summarize what we main points and flaws. I think the flaws are easy to see in the sense that it's still underdeveloped, still need a lot of patience and investment to build, to generate. I think the potentials are great, but I think the more importantly, what are the main possibilities? I think for me at least, for how I observe the field and how I observe the scene, how I understand the scene is that Southeast Asian academic world or the intellectual worlds, on the one hand, there is a very strong social science paradigm knowledge that has been established, that have been imported from the Western, Western centers or developed world, I should say developed world. I think these are still very important. We cannot basically dismiss the knowledge that have been produced in the very major intellectual universities in the West, in America, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, I think we don't have that. Or Southeast Asian, when I say we are more actually more open in a way, in the sense that we don't take any established social science paradigm as a given, as a fixed point, as some kind of a teleology trajectory. I detect, at least for what I detect, some kind of teleological trajectory in the major social science scholarship coming from the developed world at the moment. I think there are very excellent scholarship, but they perhaps have some blind spots here and there. But I think Southeast Asia, in a way, is more open-minded in the sense of having another perspective, a different point of view. And the emergence of China, a very, very different country from the West, with a very unique political, economic, cultural, historical, whatever, system on its own. It is not necessarily well received, I would say, in the current situations, this kind of a strategic tense situation in some of the Western universities or sites. But I think that is less so in Southeast Asia. I think the willingness to explore the possibilities are still there. Much greater room to accept or to understand. I think this would actually be the main points, the main strengths in the future, in the years to come, and we should embrace this possibility, this openness in Southeast Asia. Thank you.
I think this is a very good point. You're saying that actually the Southeast Asian scholars may have more open mind, right, in dealing with China, in studying information. Unlike the Western scholars, they may have some bias, right? And also because of South Asia and China may face similar problems of development, so they understand better. So I think that's a very good point. So hopefully we can look for more useful knowledge from our Southeast Asia scholars in the Chinese, in the China knowledge. Thank you for giving us this insight for that. Now let's move to Minjiang. You talk about NTS, but for some people it's a kind of academic discussion, right? So how do you explain the importance of NTS to normal people, right? Actually, how NTS create a challenge, but also opportunity for normal business people or even students. So can you give us an explanation, please?
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Tang. Security, including non-social security, in my view, should be a priority for people in the business community. If you have a big business, you are making a decision on multi-billion, millions of dollars, that kind of decision making. First and foremost, you need to think about this question: where do I make the investment? Is my investment going to be safe? In our in addition to our academic activities, sometimes some of the big corporations will come to us and consult. They ask these questions: is there going to be war? How is the China-U.S. strategic rivalry, geopolitical contentions going to evolve? Whether Southeast Asia, for instance, will continue to be peaceful, whether there's going to be conflict in the South China Sea. So big corporations are always concerned about these questions. And certainly, even if you're a SME, you're a small, medium enterprise owner, you need to think about these questions as well, because if relationship or politics between political relations between two countries get sour, that's going to pose a serious challenge to your investments and your economic activities, even trade. So you look at the current debate or a lot of discussions on decoupling, right? Industrial and supply chain relocations. All these things are directly related to security. And now to security is very relevant to everybody or other people, right? Whether you can travel in the current context of COVID-19, right? How you're going to conduct your business activities, all these things are directly affected by COVID-19 situation, for instance. And then, climate change, apparently it's abstract. It's away, away from our daily life. But again, if it is a business person, you have to take notice that now with international discussions on decarbonization, there will be a lot of like domestic policies deal with some of these new international requirements. And whatever sector you are in, you need to take into account some of these new policies or emerging policies. Thank you very much.
Not consider risk, right? There are risks, and NTS actually is a kind of risk, right? Like you said, there will be disruption of travels, right? Disruption of logistics. These are all kind of risks business people need to consider. But also, I think you point very rightly, NTS also provide an opportunity for cooperation. You see, China and USA have this kind of conflict, military conflict, perhaps, right? This kind of decoupling. But actually, NTS offers area for the two countries to cooperate, right? For example, environmental challenge, all these things. So it's kind of a kind of opportunity for these two powers to be reconnected, I think. So NTS both have a challenge and also gives us an opportunity for two countries, and which will also affect the business people at the micro level. So thank you for your bringing us attention to this important topic about NTS, non-traditional security. Okay, thank you very much. Now we will have some questions from audience. Okay, who? Yes, please.
I would like to ask Mr. Suanchailo what's mentioned. In this current situation, do small businesses have any opportunity to enter into the global market, and how should entrepreneurs prepare or adjust?
Yes, I believe SME and small business still have a lot of opportunity to enter to the global market, especially those who can create the uniqueness to their business. Creativity, innovation is the key component of the uniqueness. It will hit the target group of customer and create the customer niche. For example, if you create some business and you want to target myself, the 50 plus years old of age, very busy, working day, working life, no time to exercise, no time to shopping. I don't want to buy anything for myself, but if in go out to shopping, I buy for my family. So if this lifestyle is become your target, and you want to target myself as your target group, I believe that there are also some person like me in this world, in Japan, in Singapore, in China, in Malaysia, so-called it's a global niche. With this digitalization, the global niche is connectable and is the way to successful in business. As long as you have the uniqueness, creativity, and innovation, I believe you will have a success business. in the future ครับ
Thank you.
In the global business? And the answer is, since the world is very much connected through internet, so it's possible for us to find some unique product and service to fulfill this need. But may I ask, do you worry about this breakdown of supply chain during the COVID or during the China-US sort of rivalries? How much do we worry about this breakdown of supply chain logistics?
Yeah, for currently when we talk to Thai SME, and we also aware of this problem. So we try to promote domestic market and the linkage between inside the so-called locality of the product and supply chain more and more. Since in ASEAN, we believe that Thailand and every country in ASEAN, we should connect to each other more rather than to worry about the global internals like European and USA too far away. So currently during this COVID-19 pandemic, we focus closer and nearer to Thailand, so which is our regional ASEAN, which that's why I also believe in ASEAN younger power, and they will change the way of business as well.
Okay. Yeah, so the answer is probably we should look for more market in ASEAN, right? The local market and the local supply chain, right? That's your advice. Okay, thank you. Can we have the second question? Okay.
I would like to ask Dr. Neil Xiaoping, the intense confrontation between the two superpowers, the United States of America and China, will affect business in ASEAN or not?
I think
confrontation between USA and China will affect ASEAN business, right? That's your question.
Yeah, I think Ming Jiang would perhaps have a better answer how ASEAN is impacted by US-China tensions. But perhaps I can answer it by bringing out something that I have been talking about today in the sense of ASEAN universities and business sector. I think we should not let the confrontation affect the way that we continue to have normal, productive academic engagement with both sides, with China and US. I think this is great opportunity. Many Chinese students and scholars, because they feel they are not so welcome in the West anymore, they come to some alternative places. Southeast Asia, I think, is one of the alternatives. But I think we meaning not just Malaysia, but Southeast Asia have to be prepared because it's a very large number of opportunities. Students they face a lot of challenges. Sometimes adapting to the environment here, we should have prepared stronger preparation in terms of how to utilize and leverage on these potentials for further students or academic collaborations with China, and for how Southeast Asians go to China as well. So I think these are how I would answer these questions. Thank you.
His answer is more from academic university point of view. His point is, yes, there will be some confrontation between two countries, but we should not be too much led away by that. We should still have a very positive engagement for both sides, for both China and USA, right, academically, for both sides, for the academic exchange. I think that's a very good point, a very good idea. Does Ming Jiang have anything to add on that? You are expert about security. Anything to say about the U.S.-China confrontation and its implication for Southeast Asia?
Thank you very much. Just to add to what Xiaoping has already said. Certainly, China-U.S. rivalry will provide both challenges and opportunities for Southeast Asia. If you look at the investments and even trade, I think some of us will probably agree that in the past few years, Southeast Asia, at least some Southeast Asians have benefited from this competition between U.S. and China, right? Because of the trade war that Donald Trump imposed on China started with China. You saw some investments moving out of China and get relocated in Southeast Asia. Vietnam has been a major beneficiary in that regard. Indonesia as well, Thailand, Malaysia. I think many countries in the region have benefited from this relocation of investments out of China. Look at trade as well, right? Because of the trade war and some of the other trade frictions between China and the European countries, you've seen quite significant growth in terms of trade between ASEAN countries and China in the past 3 years. And certainly there are other factors, but the benefit from the trade war between US and China is part of the story. But there are challenges. The challenges are not becoming detrimental to ASEAN countries yet, because right, you don't see a Cold War between China and US. Although you have quite dramatic deterioration in relations between Beijing and Washington, but it's not a Cold War yet. It's not a full-fledged containment on the part of the US against China. So there's still a bit of stability. There are still communications. There's still engagement between China and US. And they have cooperation. The economic trade relationship between China and US has been affected negatively, but by and large, some of the fundamentals continue to remain. So in terms of challenges, we're already seeing, for instance, like technology, 5G, right? Telecommunications. We've seen quite a bit of pressures from Washington on Southeast Asia to choose side, right? To decouple with China. Some of the leading Chinese high-tech companies, 5G operators, are finding themselves in a bit of difficult, challenging situation now when they want to promote their products and participate in some of the projects in Southeast Asia. It would be a challenge for Southeast Asia because when it comes to technologies, especially telecom, you'll probably see greater pressures from both China and the United States on ASEAN countries. And in terms of digital trade, I'm sure there will be the competition between China and US will lead to some challenges to Southeast Asia countries as well. How you handle data flow, data safety, all these things, because there are so many differences between China and the United States, and regional countries will face a dilemma, I believe, in the coming years. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you think there are both opportunities and challenges for ASEAN countries. Opportunities, you can see there are more investment relocated to ASEAN countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, so on. And also in trade, right? There are bigger growth of China-ASEAN trade. In fact, now ASEAN become the biggest trade partner of China. Right? These are all opportunities, but there are also challenges. Like I said, maybe ASEAN countries are forced to take side in terms of technology standard, in terms of data safety. But overall, you are still, I see, quite optimistic for the US-China relations. You can see it's still not Cold War, still not detrimental. And maybe somehow there are still hope for some change of the China-US relations when they look at in the global setting. Okay, so I think that's a very good analysis for the China-USA confrontation. The last period is let you give some concluding remarks, about 2 minutes each person, about to relate to the theme of this conference. It's about to reconnect in the world, right, through business, in the world of coexistence, through business education, and reconnect the world of coexistence through business education. Maybe again, can we start with Mr. Suanchai?
I believe in young ASEAN power. We all know how important our region is to China, to the world. Not only the size of population, the power of young ASEAN people come from their own capabilities. Our world now belongs to these younger people. They are bright, aware of the world around them, and mature beyond their years in many ways. They are shaping up to be the most well-educated. They also have a lot of spending power. Their digitally native lifestyle has given them a step up when it comes to using technology, giving them the ability to pivot quickly as new circumstances arise. So for the future, let's pass our world to these younger ASEAN people. Let them lead the change of the world. Thank you very much.
So you hope the young generation of ASEAN people will have a better mindset. I think that's also why you have opened a new business called Tiger Academy, right?
Yes.
Is that a kind of training?
Yeah, it's a
academic
kind of I try to be the bridge to linkage between the generation and countries by country. As my background, I was a former director general of SAB promotion, right? So I have a lot of opportunity to connect to every country in the world. So I see this change need to be cope with, and among ourselves, my generation, the best position of myself, I think that to become the bridge for them. So our experience, our thought may be fruitful for them. So to become a consultant, to become the training center, to become the academy myself, may be one part to link this change for the younger generation. That's why I start my own Tiger Academy now.
So we should success for this new business, new venture in this year of Tiger, right? Tiger Academy.
Yes.
That's very good. Okay, thank you. Now let's move to Ms. Jerapong. Before you leave, do you have anything as a key takeaway for our students?
So much in the world change so lot, right? So what do you think? What you learn for? Anything what you would like to do? You have the power. You have anything in your part, right? So I think that do it and done it. Not just only like learn something like this. You need to collaborate between learning and doing, right?
Okay.
And that's give you success in the future.
Okay, so just do it. Do not think too much.
Right. Right.
Speed up. Do it. That's
Right.
a very good entrepreneur mindset. Okay. Thank you very much,
Okay,
Jerapong. Now, Ming Jiang, please. Anyway, anything for us to take away?
Sure, yes. Well, NTS issues are so relevant, so important for individual human beings' safety, well-being, and happiness. And I think at the national level, decision makers, political leaders, all of them in China and Southeast Asia should pay more attention to cross-border collaboration. The region is such that some countries are richer, some countries are more capable, some countries have more resources, and other countries have far less. So it's a very uneven development. And this is particularly the case for some of the less developed countries. They will need a lot of assistance, a lot of help from those regional countries that are more capable. So cross-border cooperation is extremely necessary and useful. You look at disaster management, for instance, disaster relief, prevention. And countries like Philippines and Indonesia have experienced a lot of disasters every year. And whenever you have a big typhoon, a big earthquake, or other extreme weather condition, and would be very useful if other countries can come to their rescue, join those relief operations on a timely manner, with a timely manner, and that'll be very, very helpful for regional developments and the well-being of people in those areas. If you look at some of the less tangible NTS issues like environment, right? We have many civil society groups, NGOs working in this area, trying to preserve biodiversity, trying to improve environmental quality in many countries. And I would say, whether you're talking about government agencies or business federations or even corporations, we all have a duty to support those groups, either financially or in other means, so that we end up having a better world. Some NTS issues that are very pertinent to our daily survival or daily life. For instance, food security, food shortage, poverty, right? I think whether you're talking about nation states or business entities, individuals or groups, we have this moral duty to support those people who live in poverty, those people who struggle to have their ends meet every day, to find enough food for their family members every day. So I think there's really a lot of things that all of us can do to address these NTS challenges in Southeast Asia. Thank you.
I think your speech and also comment is so relevant for today's conference. The theme of this conference, which is reconnect the world of coexistence, because there's so many NTS issues related to the coexistence of the world, like what you mentioned about the weather, the environment, the food, the poverty issues. So there are so many challenges and so many things we can do together to make our world better. So thank you for bringing us to this very important issue. Thank you. Let's move to Zhao Bing, please.
Thank you, Professor Tang. I think in my talk, I mentioned curiosity and necessity as the two leitmotifs between the traditional and the more modern ways of studying so-called others, countries or societies. I think right now we are at the moment of greater necessity for Southeast Asia and for China as well, to know each other, to guide each other. I think this would be the most important factor why this is true. But I think we still have to keep curiosity. Otherwise, it will just be too calculative. It will just be based on self-interest. We should increase the curiosity of someone that is different from us, China, and actually for that matter, I would strongly encourage for Japan, Korea, neighboring countries between Southeast Asia. We don't perhaps know each other very, very well as well. So I think Southeast Asian universities should encourage a lot more understanding of other parts of the world, not just always have their eyes looking toward the West, the developed world, but toward each other, toward the developing world, toward the vast world, with a sense of curiosity, not just based on necessity. And with China, I will add that we have one more advantage, and that is familiarity. I will bet an average Southeast Asian know more about China compared to an average American. But this is not yet translated into the discourse power of Southeast Asian in the world of China studies. Is basically dominated from the knowledge produced in the West. It's still great knowledge, don't get me wrong, but I think we don't yet have a very strong voice, and I think that we should have, Southeast Asian should have. So that would be my my takeaway point, perhaps. Thank you.
Very inspirational, not your remarks for our students. Actually, you're very right. Necessity and curiosity are two drivers for knowledge creation. But sometimes we're too much preoccupied by the necessity, right? Because to do business, we must do consulting project to discuss many practical issues, but that's driven by necessity. But you're saying that we should have a curiosity, that we should be curious about very interesting issues, about civilization, about different issues, which may not be money-making at the moment, right? Not necessary, but it's also a very important driver for knowledge creation. So thank you for bringing us to this point. And also, I think I'm also inspired by the way you said that Southeast Asia can create better knowledge, better than Western world, right? Because our culturally more related, because we face similar development problems. So I think that's also quite inspirational. Thank you very much. Okay, so time is limited. I think we have very good discussion and hear very useful insights from our speakers. And these certainly will be will inspire us, our students, to study forward, look forward, to study hard, and to become innovator in their future careers. So let me thank you again for our speakers, and also thank you for our audience for participating this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Tang.
ครับ thank you
ขอบคุณค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you very much for our guest speaker and also Dr. Zhi Ming Chang for giving us new knowledge in various aspects. It is very useful in modern world, both in business and education.
非常感谢汤志敏教授从多线角度给我们带来了不同的观点，对于商业世界与教育世界非常有好处。接下来，请各位打开电脑摄像机，一起合影留念。今天参加的本次国际学术会议的国内国外嘉宾非常多，大家准备好了吗？
Now it's photo time. So may I invite all participants to turn on your camera and ready? Turn on your camera. On the count of 3, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, one more time. 3, 2, 1, smile.
此外，大家即使退出系统，也仍然可以通过扫描二维码登录，查看本次会议中自己感兴趣的各个领域和学术报告。您也可以通过本网站下载本次会议的论文集。如果您有任何问题或者想交流学术观点，请在相关研究论文的文本框内输入。
In addition, everyone can still view academic presentations of the conference by log out from this current system and then selecting log in by scanning QR code to view the presentation in various fields of your interest. You can also download full articles from proceeding via this website. If you have any question or would like to exchange academic ideas, please type in the text box of the associated research paper.
好，为了使下次会议更加完善，麻烦各位通过扫描屏幕上的二维码，对本次会议进行评估。今天2022年政大管理学院第6届国际学术会议已经完毕。再感谢联合主办方、联盟合作以及学家、研究人员和所有贵宾。7月份我们再相见。
To improve our academic conference, we would like to request your kind cooperation to evaluate our activity via this QR code appears on the screen. Finally, we would like to take this opportunity to offer our gratitude to our co-hosts, airlines agency, academics, researchers, and all distinguished guests. Thank you very much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again in July 2022. Goodbye.
谢谢。